Hi, welcome to Ken's Games Collection, and recently I did a video where I was talking about console launches from the MegaDrive all the way through to the PlayStation 5. Now in the comment section of that video, Simon ThePSXcollector, who's got a great channel, I'll leave a link down below for it, left a comment where he was saying that he'd love to hear my experiences with the launch day of the MegaDrive. So we have to go back to November 1990. That's when it was released. What's interesting, it was released in Japan, the MegaDrive Genesis, I guess you could call it if you're from America, on the 28th of October 1988. So that was nearly 2 years, well actually just over 2 years that we finally got the MegaDrive, and by that time it was a really good launch of the MegaDrive. But my memories of that launch day and leading up to it, it's nothing like it is today. I've talked about this before. Back in the day, there was no internet. We didn't have the information at our fingertips where we could just type it in, search it. We relied heavily on magazines. And for the information that, say, Sega Aussiesoft would give to the stores, their sales rep would go around, there'd be brochures, pamphlets, there'd be some sort of information in store you could take home and read about upcoming game releases, more so than the console releases. I do remember they had a quarterly magazine, Sega Zone, where they came out 4 times a year. I found that with reviews very biased because it was done by themselves, and I think members of the Sega Hotline team, so I never really paid much attention to that. But for me to get any information on the MegaDrive, I really relied heavily on magazines from America and the UK, stuff like GamePro, Electronic Gaming Monthly, there was Mean Machine, Sega Mean Machine, and stuff like that, computer and video games. So those magazines were like a 3-month delay. Say we're in January, we would have had like October the previous year copy come out. We were always 3 months behind, so to speak. So even though it was 3 months behind, we were still able to digest any information about this MegaDrive and see what it was all about. And that's, for me, got the hype going, was the magazines and talking to the sales staff in stores, because you know it was their job to try and push it. And I think they did a good job of doing that. Now, on launch day, I don't remember the exact date. I know it was November 1990. It could have been towards the end of the week, going into the weekend, if I remember correctly. And I have to be honest, it was nothing like what we have today. There was no midnight launches. There was no hype. There was no social media influencers. You know, they're just bombarding us with information and everything you can imagine, like we do get these days. It was, you just went into the store, it's on the shelf, took it off the shelf, purchased it. It was nothing like what we have. No fanfare. It was such a niche market back then, not like what it is now. Today, video gaming is mainstream. Back in the 90s, late 80s, with the Master System, Mega Drives, NES, Super NES, it was such a niche market. And that's the thing you have to remember. We didn't have the hype. We didn't have the pre-orders. There was no need for that. You could walk into any store, department store, independent gaming stores, which were where I would go mostly to get it. Now, the MegaDrive, when it was released here in Australia, it came with Altered Beast. The price tag was $399.95. That's like a huge chunk of our wage. I think when I go back, think back to the early 90s, after tax you'd be lucky to take home $450 a week, $500 if you were lucky. If you work weekends, you got penalty rates. So you know, when you pay all your bills, rent, all that sort of stuff, food, it doesn't leave you much. But you know, we knew what date this thing was coming out, so we could, you know, save money. We couldn't go in there and pre-order it and pay it off. Couldn't even try to lay-buy the thing before launch. It was only after launch you could go into like a Big W or Target or Woolworths and put it on lay-buy for 6 weeks and pay it off. There was nothing like what we have today with pre-orders. Did not exist. We did not know what a pre-order was. We walked into the store and picked it up. It sounds really boring, but that's the way it was. We just walked in there. I can't remember. I think I was on my day off when it came out, and I think I went into Brisbane CBD, picked it up from probably one of the bigger independent stores, and we had a lot of independent stores here in Brisbane in the CBD back in the day. And when you walk in there, it was a long store, wall-to-wall PC stuff, which is crazy. And console gaming has such a little section back then compared to today. But there's all the PC stuff is all on Steam or download. No real physical games out there anymore. But yeah, we just walked in there and it was there. We didn't have to worry about stock levels. We didn't have to worry about I guess you could say scalpers. There was no scalping. You walked in there, you paid your money, took it home, and experienced what was a great console. And I gotta admit, when that came out here in Australia, it had one of the best launch dates, not dates, but it had one of the best launch titles you could imagine. It had Alan Palmer Golf, there was Alec Kidd and the Enchanted Castle, Ghouls and Ghosts, which looked like an arcade perfect port, Revenge of Shinobi, Forgotten Worlds 2, I think. There was a few other things as well, but they're the ones that really stand out for me. Space Harrier 2, I wrote this down, luckily I did. Mystic Defender, which was a great game, which was Spellcaster on the Master System, which was a total shock, great game. Yeah, Super Hang-On, Super Thunderblade. It was just a great launch for the Mega Drive, and it was 2 years between the Japanese launch and the Australian launch. But one thing I got to say about Altered Beast that kind of bugged me for a few years until I found a great import store here in Brisbane. I remember taking the Mega Drive home, putting in Altered Beast, and started playing that thing, and it just seemed so slow. The controls weren't that responsive, and I thought, man, this is a really bad port of what was a great arcade game back then. That was one of the best arcade games you could find. And I didn't learn till later on, till I found a great import store, that the TVs, in Australia, UK, it's a PAL TV signal system. In America, Canada, all those sort of places, it's NTSC. So our TVs run at a slower frame rate than the ones in the USA. Best way to show it, I did a little piece where I can show Rolling Thunder 2, the opening in the PAL territory and the NTSC territory. So that's the best way of showing it, is just how slow it was for us. Every game we played on the Mega Drive Master System was so slow, and that's just the way it was until I got the Mega Drive modded, where I flicked a switch. It was playable in 60 hertz, not 50 hertz, which is what I was trying to say before. Our TVs here in Australia back then were 50 hertz, America was 60 hertz, and a massive difference, as you can see from that video. But I guess another thing leading up to the launch of the Mega Drive was some TV ads. Now, the TV ad we had was actually based on the one in Japan. It just had an Aussie voiceover, so we'll have a quick look at that.
Somewhere on planet Earth, a scientist creates the ultimate machine.
At last!
A machine that will give him the power to journey into the Mega World. With thousands of colors, 16-bit graphic technology, and 10-channel Mega Stereo sound. The most advanced video game system in the universe.
Yes!
MegaDrive from Sega.
So that was the ad that played for quite a while, as I remember, before the launch and after the launch of the MegaDrive. And you'll see stuff on TV, especially on the news, current affairs. They would do stories on these next gen consoles, I guess you could say back then. The MegaDrive, and the effects it has on kids playing games all day, not getting outside, all that sort of stuff, which we see the media do. They still do that sort of stuff to this day. And for better or worse, that was kind of a way to get the word out there that there was this new console coming out from Sega. There were some positive stories out there as well from some of the current affairs shows. I don't know if there was a deal done with Aussiesoft to do giveaways. I think there was some giveaways on some of those current affairs shows, but that kind of built up the hype as well. So no internet, no pre-orders, walked in the store, picked it up, took it home, and experienced some great games. It was pretty boring compared to what we have today with console launches. I'd like to know, was it the same if around the world with the MegaDrive? If you've been gaming as long as me, you've seen launches of many consoles, and you know what I'm talking about. Back then, it was such a niche market, and that's the thing I need to get across. I guess people think that gaming was massive back then, but it wasn't. It was such a small demographic of the population that was playing games back then, and I would say 95% were male and only 5%, or maybe even 10% maybe, was female, whereas today it's about 50-50. It's such more a broader spectrum of people playing games, and older as well. That's something I noticed compared to back in the day. It was always the younger generation, and the older generations kind of looked at you and scoffed at you a lot. You're a nerd. What are you playing games for? All that sort of rubbish that we had to put up with. 30 years in the future, here we are today. Everybody's playing games. Everybody's streaming games. We have older gamers. I'm an older gamer, but there's gamers older than me out there doing their thing, and that's what it's all about, just enjoying these consoles. But that is what it was like back in the day. For the MegaDrive launch, no fanfare. It was just, it's in store, go get it if you wanted it. I'm sorry, that's the way it was. So until next time guys, bye.